Hello UFO fanatics. Today we are talking about balls, and not just balls. Green fireballs. How these be Hulk's green balls? Ahaha. Green fireballs are a type of unidentified flying object which have been sighted in the sky since the early 1950s. Early sightings primarily occurred in the southwestern United States, particularly in New Mexico. They were once of notable concern to the U.S. government because they were often clustered around sensitive research and military installations, such as Los Alamos and Sandia National Laboratory, then Sandia Base. Meteor expert Dr. Lincoln Lopez headed much of the investigation into the fireballs on behalf of the military. Lopez's conclusion was that the objects displayed too many anomalous characteristics to be a type of meteor and instead were artificial, perhaps secret Soviet spy devices. The green fireballs were seen by many people of high repute including Lopez, distinguished Los Alamos scientists, Kirtland AFB intelligence officers and Air Command defense personnel. A February 1949 Los Alamos conference attended by aforementioned sighters, Project Sign, world-renowned upper atmosphere physicist Dr. Joseph Kaplan, H-bomb scientist Dr. Edward Teller, other scientists and military brass concluded, though far from unanimously, that green fireballs were natural phenomena. To the conference attendees, though the green fireball source was unknown, their existence was unquestioned. Secret conferences were convened at Los Alamos to study the phenomenon, and in Washington by the U.S. Air Force Scientific Advisory Board. In December 1949 Project Twinkle, a network of green fireball observation and photographic units, was established but never fully implemented. It was discontinued 2 years later, with the official conclusion that the phenomenon was probably natural in origin. Green fireballs have been given natural, man-made, and extraterrestrial origins and have become associated with both the Cold War and ufology. Because of the extensive government paper trail on the phenomenon, many ufologists consider the green fireballs to be among the best documented examples of unidentified flying objects, UFOs. Some early reports came from late November 1948, but were at first dismissed as military green flares. Then on the night of December 5, 1948, 2 separate plane crews, one military, Air Force C-47, Captain Goad, 9:27 p.m., 10 miles, 16 kilometers, east of Albuquerque, and one civilian, EC-3, Pioneer Flight 63, 9:35 p.m., east of Las Vegas, New Mexico, each asserted that they had seen a green ball of fire. The C-47 crew had seen an identical object 22 minutes before near Las Vegas. The military crew described the light as like a huge green meteor except it arched upwards and then flat instead of downwards. The civilian crew described the light as having a trajectory too low and flat for a meteor, at first abreast and ahead of them but then appearing to come straight at them on a collision course, forcing the pilot to swerve the plane, at which time the object appeared full moon size. 2 UFO investigators, both of whom were experienced pilots themselves, witnessed a green fireball while flying an aircraft the evening of December 8. They said it was about 2,000 feet, 610 meters, above their craft, roughly resembling the green flares commonly used by the Air Force, though much more intense and apparently considerably brighter. The light seemed to burst into full brilliance almost instantaneously. The report stated that the light was definitely larger and more brilliant than a shooting star, meteor or flare. The light lasted only a few seconds, moving almost flat and parallel to the Earth. The light's trajectory then dropped off rapidly, leaving a trail of fragments reddish-orange in color which then fell towards the ground. The next day, a FSI consulted Dr. Lincoln Lopez, an astronomer from the University of New Mexico. Lopez himself saw a green fireball on December 12, which was also seen at Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory, enabling Lopez to determine the trajectory using triangulation. From this, Lopez discovered that the center of the trajectory was straight over Los Alamos. In a classified letter to the Air Force on December 20, Loooooll wrote that the object moved far too slowly to have been a meteor and left no trail of sparks or dust cloud as would be typical of meteors flying at low altitudes. On January 13, 1949, the following message was sent to the Director of Army Intelligence from 4th Army Headquarters in Texas. Agencies in New Mexico are greatly concerned some foreign power may be making sensing shots with some superstratosphere device designed to be self-disintegrating. The phenomena may be the result of radiological warfare experiments by a foreign power. The rays may be lethal or might be the cause of the plane crashes that have occurred recently. These incidents are of such great importance, especially as they are occurring in the vicinity of sensitive installations, that a scientific board should be sent to study the situation. On January 30, the brightest and most widely seen green fireball sighting occurred near Roswell, New Mexico. The next day, the FBI was informed by Army and Air Force intelligence that flying saucers and the fireballs were classified top secret. Loooooll interviewed hundreds of witnesses, with help from the FBI and military intelligence, and again tried to recover fragments by triangulating a trajectory, but was again unsuccessful. After his own sighting and interviewing numerous witnesses, Loooooll had concluded that green fireballs were an artificial phenomenon. On February 8, he met with Dr. Joseph Kaplan, a UCLA geophysicist and member of the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board. Loooooll's informal scientific study for the Air Force quickly became formal, being called the Conference on Aerial Phenomena, convening at Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory in mid-February to review the data. The scientists felt that a network of instrument stations should be established to photograph and analyze the fireballs. By April 1949, similar sites were reported over a nuclear weapons storage facility at Fort Hood in Texas. The intrusions were deemed so serious that, unlike the Air Force, the Army quickly set up an observation network. On July 24, a green fireball was observed falling close to Socorro, New Mexico. Dust samples were collected at the School of Mines there and were found to contain large particles of copper. Loooooll found this highly significant, since copper burns with the same yellow-green color characteristic of the green fireballs. He also noted that if the copper particles came from the green fireballs, then they could not be conventional meteorites, since copper was never found in dust of meteoric origin. Loooooll suggested that further air and ground samples be taken in areas where the fireballs were seen. Another Los Alamos conference convened on October 14. Among the puzzles were the sudden onset and the high concentration of sightings in New Mexico, quite unlike natural phenomena. Despite this, it was decided the fireballs were probably atmospheric in origin. Instrumented observations, photographic, triangulation, and spectroscopic, were deemed essential to solving the mystery. On November 3, Dr. Kaplan brought the plan to the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board at the Pentagon. Kaplan by this time had decided the fireballs might be a new type of rare meteor. Nonetheless, most of the scientists remained puzzled by the brightness, trajectories, and absence of sound. Seeming to contradict his meteor hypothesis, Kaplan also said, "This high selectivity of direction seems to indicate that some of the group was trying to pinpoint Los Alamos with a new sort of weapon." Concerns were expressed about the possibility of panic and the need for continued secrecy. Finally, on December 20, after nearly a year of delay, the instrument observation program was approved and Project Twinkle was born. The first instrument post, consisting of 2 officers, was established at Holloman Air Force Base in February 1950. Only one other instrument post was ever set up. Loooooll criticized Project Twinkle as inadequate, arguing the green fireballs were worthy of intensive, systematic investigation. Twinkle did manage to record a few events, but the data collected were said to be incomplete in the final Twinkle report. Besides, it was stated, no funding had been provided for follow-up data analysis. In addition, the fireball activity near the observation posts seemed to virtually disappear. As noted in a report from September, it may be considered significant that fireballs have ceased abruptly as soon as a systematic watch was set up. Over the objections of Loooooll and others, the final report on Project Twinkle concluded the green lights were probably a natural event, maybe sunspot activity or an unusual concentration of meteors. The report stated, there has been no indication that even the somewhat strange observations often called green fireballs are anything but natural phenomena. Twinkle was discontinued in December 1951. Despite efforts of the final Twinkle report to downplay the fireballs and other studied UFO phenomena as natural, a follow-up report in February 1952 from the USAF Directorate of Intelligence disagreed. The Scientific Advisory Board Secretariat has suggested that this project not be declassified for a variety of reasons, chief among which is that no scientific explanation for any of the fireballs and other phenomena was revealed by the report, and that some reputable scientists still believe that the observed phenomena are man-made. The following month, another letter from the Directorate of Intelligence to the Research Division of the Directorate of Research and Development again stated that the report should not be publicly released, since no real solution had been provided. It is believed that a release of the information to the public in its present condition would cause undue speculation and give rise to unwarranted fears among the populace, such as occurred in previous releases on unidentified flying objects. This results from releases when there has been no real solution. Edward J. Ruppelt, director of the USAF Project Blue Book UFO study, stated he visited the Los Alamos National Laboratory in early 1952 and spoke to various scientists and technicians there, all of whom had experienced green fireball sightings. None of them believed that they had a conventional explanation, such as a new natural phenomenon, secret government project, or psychologically enlarged meteors. Instead, the scientists speculated that they were extraterrestrial probes projected into our atmosphere from a spaceship hovering several hundred miles above the Earth. Ruppelt commented, 2 years ago I would have been amazed to hear a group of reputable scientists make such a startling statement. Now, however, I took it as a matter of course. I'd heard the same type of statement many times before from equally qualified groups. However, such opinions were apparently not unanimous. Immediately afterwards, Ruppelt said he visited Loooooll in Albuquerque. Ruppelt reported that Loooooll said that some people, including Dr. Joseph Kaplan and Dr. Edward Teller, thought that the green fireballs were natural meteors. But he didn't think so. Citation: Loooooll then reiterated the various anomalous characteristics which led him to believe the fireballs were artificial. Ruppelt also mentioned that he had previously met with Kaplan in Los Angeles, and although Kaplan respected Loooooll professionally, he was not convinced that the fireballs were man-made. Ruppelt further mentioned that he discussed the issue with some of the people who had been at the Los Alamos meeting in February 1949, but did not provide any names. People who were at that meeting have told me that Dr. Loooll's theory was very interesting and that each point was carefully considered. But evidently it wasn't conclusive enough, because when the conference broke up, after 2 days, it was decided that the green fireballs were a natural phenomenon of some kind. However, despite what Ruppelt may have been told and then reported in his book, there is nothing in the actual transcript of the conference that indicates that such a group decision was ever reached. Instead, opinions remained divided, much puzzlement was expressed, and further research was recommended to help resolve the issue. In the 1969 Condon Committee UFO report, astronomer William K. Hartman thought the green fireballs might be explained by lunar material ejected during recent meteor impacts on the Moon's surface. Hartman's reasoning was that such ejected lunar meteors could account for the abnormally low velocities calculated from the green fireballs by Loooooll of about Earth's escape velocity, that is, much lower than normal meteor velocities. Hartman further claimed, without explanation or elaboration, that the predicted characteristics match those of the green fireball episode. However, an object coming from the Moon would enter the Earth's atmosphere with a speed almost as high as the escape velocity of the Earth, 11 kilometers per second. And the theory would not account for the many other anomalous characteristics of the green fireballs detailed by Loooooll, such as strong confinement to the New Mexico area, lime green color, low altitude yet absence of sound, absence of smoke trail, An absence of meteorite fragments stopped despite the entirely speculative nature of Hartmann's hypothesis. It is sometimes cited as scientific fact. For example, astronomer Carl Sagan presented it as such in his Cosmos television series in 1980. Loooll's last known comments on the green fireballs occurred in 1965 during a visit by astronomer Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a consultant to the Air Force's Project Blue Book. Hynek was also investigating the Loooll incident. According to Hynek, Loooll felt the fireballs were the most important part of the UFO phenomenon. He remained convinced that the fireball's anomalous characteristics had never been adequately explained by the official investigation. Loooll continued to think the green fireballs were artificial, but now believed the fireballs, and also the Loooll craft, to be highly secret projects of the US government. He also accused Hynek, Project Blue Book, and others of being part of a grand cover-up for something the government does not want discussed. There have been reports of green fireballs outside the US and long after the early days of Project Twinkle, often near sensitive government or military bases. Randles and Hoff note that a Royal Air Force pilot had a near collision with 3 unusual green fireballs near Manchester, England, and fireballs were also sighted near a nuclear power plant in Suffolk in 1983. There was also a sighting of a green fireball in Cold Lake, Alberta, Canada in the summer of 2011. Cold Lake notably has the largest Air Force base in all of Canada, and after several local protests in the 1980s, Cold Lake no longer has nuclear weapons. On October 31, 2016, a green fireball was witnessed over the pre-dawn skies of Niigata Prefecture in northern Japan. Another fireball was spotted in Kildare, Ireland on the 22nd of November 2016. On November 26, 2016, another was spotted just north of Calgary, Alberta around 6:45 local time. In South Africa, a green UFO was spotted 1,000 feet in the sky of Jeffreys Bay. A Boeing 737 cargo aircraft captain and co-pilot, flying from Cape Town International Airport to Port Elizabeth International Airport, reported seeing what appeared to be a green object increasing in altitude past the cockpit of their airplane, reaching to about 1,000 feet into clouds above them, and then returning towards Earth at high speed past the cockpit of the airplane, NSRI spokesperson Craig Lambinon said. The sighting was reported to air traffic control at Port Elizabeth International Airport, who requested NSRI's assistance to investigate the possibility that an aircraft or craft may be in difficulty. Lambinon said the NSRI's Jeffreys Bay team monitored the matter throughout the night. The green object has not been seen since, and there are no reports of anyone or craft or aircraft overt or missing. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more in order to stay tuned for my next episode.